All right, we are official. Okay, meeting notes. March 1, Donna did another great job. Did you guys read them?
Yes.
Any changes, any edits, any additions, any corrections? Nope. Okay, who wants to make the motion that they be accepted?
Caitlin
Usually Jen does
Steckwell. I'm making a motion that they're accepted.
The only thing, I think if we're
Well-
doing it official, Caitlin, were you at that meeting?
Oh, no, I wasn't, but I read the minutes. So that's fine.
I think you're supposed to be at the meeting to make the motion. Right, Karen?
I believe so.
Yes. So can somebody else do that? Kristen,
Kristen or David?
I motion to accept.
David, do you second? Do you second the motion, David, to accept the
Yeah.
minute? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Every-
Yes.
Donna, yes, I say aye.
Yeah.
Unanimous.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Let's go on down to incident reports. Karen, you want to let us know, and did I even say welcome to everybody? Welcome, everybody. I mean, I try to say hi, but I look forward to this meeting, so I'm glad everybody's here. So,
Thank you.
except we do have an incident report, right, Karen?
We do. We have an incident report. I received several phone calls regarding a dog named Moose, who's a very, very, very handsome dog. Got the feedback from those involved, reached out to the owners asking for their statement, which is standard process for what I do. Anybody involved, I'll reach out and let them have their say. In the interim, Moose is suspended from the park while we go through the review. Done all that. Moose's owners have not responded to me at all. We did, this is an example where the cameras worked beautifully, and those involved who were hesitant about the cameras when I first started talking to them now think they're the best thing since sliced bread, because I could see what happened, especially those on the receiving end.
So what happened? What was the
so
incident?
They came into the dog park, everything was fine. They came in, there was some interaction, all seemed to go well. And then I'll call him the father, left the park, left the dog in the park unattended. There was another member of the family there with a small dog who had gone to the small dog side, so all good. But then dad left the park, left Moose unattended, while then there was some friction that started to get going almost immediately after he left. I believe
Between
daughter,
dogs, you mean? Friction between
Yes.
dogs?
I believe it was the daughter then came over from the small dog side. So dad must have gone to small dog side. Daughter came over. As daughter came in, she started running over to where Moose was, where the altercation was, got a hold of Moose, stepped away. The owner of the recipient dog brought her dog to the exit of the park, leashed her dog, proceeded to exit. Daughter let go of said Moose, who ran over to the gate where they were trying to leave. Fortunately, it was Link's mom, got Link out of the park quickly. There was no altercation. But then the daughter let go of the dog and was yelling for the dad, who came back over to the park. So now there's no owner in the little dog park with the little dog. And got hold of Moose, and the daughter went back to the little dog. While that was going on, he let go of the Moose. Moose went right after went at a German Shepherd named Heidi, whose mother was delightful to speak with, because I saw him. It was just out of my vision off the camera, but I did see the tussle come back into the camera slightly. It was the dad was running over. He then took the dog to the exit, kind of manhandled his own dog, unfortunately, and leashed him and left. So in this case, the entire occurrence, apparently as the dad was coming back from the small dog to the large dog, he spoke to Link's mom, said, I guess I could go, but he did not go. And then in fact, let go of his dog again. So in this case, it's 100% owner error. And the decision is going to be after speaking to both Heidi and Link's parents, that the owner is, they're going to be suspended from the dog park until reattendance and orientation, which is something we've done before. No incident would have occurred had the parents been in the dog park.
Okay,
Were either of the other dogs hurt?
No,
Good.
and they don't, they think that it was, had the parent not left, maybe he needs a little training, but in the interim, little dogs, the problem I have now is the key fob because of the little dog and the big dog. But they are aware that the little dog Puggle can go in, didn't do anything wrong. But the owner of Moose, the dad, has to go to orientation.
my question
They
is,
both were going back and forth.
is the daughter a member of the dog park?
Yes.
And so she's attended orientation and everything?
Mhm. Yep.
Okay, all right.
Could you tell me the date that this happened?
Give me a second because it's all, yeah, you keep going. I'll come back to that. Don't have to pull it up.
Thank you.
All right, and that was it happened, it was dealt with, and moving on. That's,
Correct.
all right.
But I can tell you that the cameras were extraordinarily helpful because I could actually see it.
Good.
The owner's name is Vogt, VOGT. And it was March 27th.
I just have is VOGT, is that a new member or a seasoned member?
I don't know. I'd have to go back and look.
Moose, a big black lab?
No,
No?
no, it's kind of a golden retriever mix, brownish, really, really pretty dog.
I haven't met Moose. All right,
Moose
I
is the
just,
kind of dog- Moose is the kind of dog that needs to go for a walk before going to the dog park.
all right, so we're moving, so that's taken care of, we're moving on, good. All right, anybody have a comment on that? Okay, Bark Bites newsletter. Karen, did the Bark Bite go out?
Yes, yes, it did.
Did any of you get it?
Yes,
Yes.
I didn't.
really.
I'm blackballed. That's what it is. They just,
You have to check, you have to check your account and see if you're opted in or opted out.
well, I know I've done that. I am opted in. I didn't get it. So the rest of you all, what do you think?
I
It
loved
was
it.
great.
It was great.
Very good.
Okay. All right. How often do you think a Bark Bite should go out?
Once a month?
I think quarterly is probably fine.
Yeah, once a month is probably too much work for someone.
Well, were we
Well,
also
what's
about
the
the newsletter?
format? Poor Kristen. I mean, we went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But once the format is basically set, it should be easier to do, but
Yeah, I think at one point I said to Kathy, I think you're editing your edits. Like it was all good. It was all good. I think,
condense.
yeah, no, it was great working with Kathy. It was great teamwork, great feedback. And I think with both of our ideas and coming together, it all worked out well. So now that the format's done, I would have to say that we should send this out on a monthly basis because the platform for this is to answer the questions and results of the survey. So if we wait quarterly, then we're going to be really slow and behind the ball on addressing either people's concerns or comments. So I think at this time, maybe that we just take the next year and commit to doing this once a month. And then after that, kind of maybe either take a break or trickle back or something like that. That was just my kind of thoughts on that.
I agree
Well,
with that.
I was thinking too, I mean, because now that the weather's starting to be nice and the dog park's going to be used more often, maybe, for the next 6 months, monthly, and then
Okay.
over that's just my thought. Over the winter
Oh,
months, maybe
I
not.
was gonna also add that potentially you could add in not just survey, but there's some nice events coming up. Use it as a combination so not everyone is so heavy with what's the right wording and and the educational piece of it. Because I think probably if you just put a calendar together, you probably have 6 ideas between the events and feedback, right? I don't
Yeah,
know if
and
you have a list
And
if
I
you
mean,
want things you want to cover.
just the idea of once the mowers start coming in and Warren, I mean, we'll talk about this later, but the fact that, pick up the balls at the end of the day, and maintenance days are such and such, and the mowers will be coming in and, a quick one of those, which isn't any part of well, it's a little bit of the survey, but it's important information to get out there as well. So yes, I think there'll be plenty of topics to cover in 6 months or so. Kristen, are you, if I promise not to edit as much?
that was just the first one. Now we're good. Yeah, that's not a problem. I think I would almost take it up into maybe October or November, depending upon the topics. But Kathy, do we have time to kind of maybe brainstorm some of the things that we should say? Like right off the bat, I would say August would be Fido Float to kind of prep people for that. Like September would be too late to put that out there, but maybe August we do Fido Float. I think April if we do the parking issue, because that was a big one.
I would do parking right now, yeah.
Yeah, and then May, maybe do that mowers one. Those are just a couple ones off the bat. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that one?
How about water, like, as you approach the summertime, giving your dog water? Can you use a kiddie pool, different things like that?
And we'll, okay, so June, providing water and there we could do the heat stroke kind of thing or the overheating, signs to watch as far as, okay, how about July?
Well, what about having just like a rule of the month or something, just like a reminder for everybody, some of the stuff that is the rules that are broken the most? Would it make sense to just put a little reminder, here's this rule again? And
Could we do that down at the bottom of the page or do that? We could work, I mean, that's, I kind of wanted to talk about that because actually it was a really cool moment. Boo and I went to the dog park for the first time,
Neat.
and that's truly the first time I've taken a dog park appropriate dog to the dog park since it was built.
Was it fun?
Oh, we had a ball.
Oh, that's
We had a
good.
ball, but I think if you have 4 people in the dog park, I bet you could find 4 things that somebody is not doing right. It's not necessarily that they're doing wrong, but so picking one thing to mention, I think, could be a good reminder, but not the focus of the bite, right? Is that
Right.
what we're?
Right.
yeah, I was thinking just a little box at the bottom or something like
Okay.
that.
All right.
Reminder rule of the month and
Maybe
But
just
it's-
reminders. Hey, don't forget, because somebody commented that they felt we were a little too strict maybe. So in a positive wording,
Yes.
something like, hey, just a reminder, or,
Pick
don't
up the
forget.
toys, or pick
Yeah.
up the poop, or
Yep.
Mm.
yeah.
Hey, if
Hey,
you're
we're
out of
doing it.
bags, let us know, whatever it is. No,
Okay.
whatever it is.
Okay.
Something.
So
How about a trainer's tip? Susie does all this voluntarily, so I want to do a trainer's tip that might help somebody avoid an issue like maybe moose.
And that could
Stay with your
easily-
dog. Just stay with your dog, and here's why. You know, it's always a
I would keep them short. We don't want to start lecturing people. Otherwise,
no, but it's but like if people park up there, we're going to turn the key fobs off. So
but how many incidences do we have, Karen? I mean, like,
how many incidents ever?
no, have we
Uh,
had like in the last 2 months since the park's been open?
We've been doing pretty good. Parking is the #1 violation. I had 4 while dealing with the one dog issue.
Mm.
So
All at the same time, in that very moment of looking at the cameras.
let's roll with what we've done so far with the reminder rule. And then if we see that, I mean, this isn't written in stone. And
Yeah,
if something comes up, boom, we slide it in there. I mean, we don't have to,
right. But these are reminders. They're not the consequences. We already know that. So
we've got a good 1, 2,
If we could get
4,
like a,
5.
yeah, like a July, if we could get just one more for the summer, July, then we pretty much are covered up until August. And so if you have another one, or was there anything else from that survey we needed to address?
Well, you know what, one of the biggest things is it's funny because, the seating in the shade,
Mhm.
but if you're gonna stay with your dog, are you gonna be sitting down?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, like, so that was one of them is light seating and shade. Lights we're not doing, which is so funny that, if it's gone to, I mean, that's shade unless we want dogs running into trees. I mean, when you think about it, the trees have to have time to grow, but there are plenty of trees in the parks. Unless we want to create a forest, and then we're going to create less room to run.
And then you're gonna have less grass too. But I brought our dog to the dog park for the first time and also had a wonderful experience. And I was looking around and I'm thinking, okay, I was looking at it from a very critical eye because I had that survey in the back of my mind. And I look around, I'm like 1, 2, 3, there's like at least 4 benches.
Oh,
I think that's enough seating, and each area has a shaded area. And I mean, when I was there, we were the only dog there until the last 5 minutes. And then an equally pretty much like Mickey's sister showed up and it was perfect. And they just ran and had the best time. But there was still a shaded area. So, I mean, I don't know, but I personally thought it was fine.
Yeah, so it's but I'm looking at,
I would say for those of us with the little dogs that some of them don't run around as much, if you do sit down and if it's late afternoon, the way it works, the shade, goes farther, like, the sun is lower and the ball of leaves of the tree sort of shades out of the park by then. So you don't have as much shade, but true, we shouldn't really be sitting.
I mean,
Yeah.
probably all depends which section you're in too.
well,
True,
that
yeah.
too. But so the next time you go, take a look at the trees as well. As far as there are plenty of trees now. They are young trees,
Mhm.
but there are plenty of trees. So and I was looking July, thinking in the heat of the summer, what other than shade, as far as the survey goes, could we address? But let's
The
get
pool?
after more.
The pool,
Oh, okay. Let's
I mean, there were a lot of comments about a pool.
Right.
I think that was in the big dog park. I heard. I missed it when I
Do you want me
just
to go-
started taking Lucy.
Do you want me to go over how that works?
So let's talk about that when we talk about the survey, because I'd like to, or we could talk about it now, but do you want to put for our bark bite, we need a July topic.
Well, what if we separated June and July? What if June, we kind of focused on water and whatever.
Hydration. How about like
hydration,
There we
hydration?
go.
like that kind of thing. And then maybe July, I mean, if we don't have anything from the survey, that's when we can maybe address the overheating or another
Fireworks.
thing with that, maybe.
Can I ask, would we ever consider getting like those sails, that go like they look like a triangle?
Well, we looked into those initially, Nancy. I mean, like early on, but we also determined that they would probably end up in the Delaware River.
I mean, they're cheap, but I'm just saying it's something we could do every year. When they're gone, they're gone. They're not expensive anymore.
But if you think about it, as far as the wind goes,
It's a really windy
Very
spot.
windy.
yeah, so we did look into that. I mean, it was,
No matter what you put in there, it's gonna go around depending upon where the sun is. The shade's going to move. So no matter where you plant the shade, it's still going to move.
uh,
I mean, I have to say, I've never seen anybody even underneath the pavilions. They're usually walking around with their dogs.
that's the whole point.
So I
That is-
can't,
That is the point,
but
Yeah,
yeah, so it's not really an issue for me. I was just trying to be
Yeah.
creative. That's all.
right?
Well, those of us with the little dogs, we very rarely sit under the pavilion because you have to drag the bench there. So the
well, there's a
pavilion
bench
are-
under there now.
Okay,
There is.
we're thinking
And-
of going there on Wednesday.
Do
Uh,
people know they can move the bench, Kathy? Like
Oh, yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
are people pretty comfortable with that?
They could carry
Yeah.
the bench. They may not drag.
So Nancy, the benches are placed where they're placed for a reason right now. And that's to get people in the spring with all the water and all the mud, to get people to walk away from the muddy spots and get to the drier spots. So, but you'll see as it gets sunnier and hotter, that the benches will go where the shade is. Yeah, but they hardly ever go all the way out to the shade because that's the farthest that anybody has to walk. So, but people do move the benches. Yeah, and not that that's a good thing, because then when the mowers come in, it's an issue, but people do move the benches. They do, and they follow the shade. So, all right, so bark bites. We're gonna do hydration, and then July, we're going to do heat. How about that?
Mm.
Water and heat.
Overheating
good.
solutions.
Okay.
We
Okay.
didn't pick a month to talk about picking up the dog droppings.
But that's a rule.
Mhm,
So that could be a
Oh, right.
reminder,
mhm.
right?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
You
So,
could put some fireworks in July.
Mhm.
It's not at the park, but it's a big issue for a lot of dogs.
well, so
I
really,
think
that
that's a
would
good
probably be
one.
a June more
Good
than
idea.
a July.
Right, it would have to be in the June, because the July one will probably come out after July 4th, right?
That's
Uh,
what I'm thinking. Well, so we'll add fireworks just, okay. All righty.
Now
So-
it's more of an issue in people's backyards than it is the big shows.
So we've got a good basis for bark bites. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Awesome. And I'm glad it was well received. So
Question.
newsletter.
Could I just ask a question? In these minutes, would you want me to put that you and Kristen were the authors of this Bark Bites, or not do that? Yeah. I don't think it
Kristen, you
should.
can answer that because that doesn't bother me. I mean,
No,
that
I
doesn't.
don't need to be the author unless you need to write somebody down, but I don't need to be. It was a group effort. Nancy was
a group,
involved as
and
well,
Nancy got
so.
it started, so.
Yeah, and you guys, I think Karen came up with the bark bite idea. We all worked on it together, so it's a communal
Yeah.
project, yep.
Oh, the FYI, when you said that, I did find the picture that was in there, I did find elsewhere. We cannot take things off of Google or the internet, but I was able to find it and secure it legitimately, so
So we're all good. Keep
we're
that.
all good.
All right, So that's Bark Bite Monthly. Now, we talked about a newsletter, and Caitlin had volunteered to do a newsletter. So let's quickly, do we want to do a newsletter? When do we want to do it? What do we want? Just a brief kind of, let's get an idea of what direction that will go, when it will go, et cetera. Or do we need it?
I'm thinking we don't need it,
Yeah.
because I think we would confuse people if they get bark bites and then there's a newsletter also. Because it seems to me like we might cover everything we want to cover in bark bites.
What do you
That's my
think?
I agree with that.
That
Okay,
makes sense, yeah.
that's fine. My only concern if with the newsletter, I mean, if we send out a newsletter, it could be like the changes that they might see at the, if it went out quarterly, changes that are happening, if membership is going to go up, if more cameras are going to be added, if rules are going to be changed, so that it would be a formal type means of communication. But if we want to put that on hold, I'm absolutely fine with that. Put it on hold.
And
Yeah.
Kathy,
Put on hold.
the things
Okay.
that you
We were gonna have
mentioned.
go
I
ahead,
was-
Kristen.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the things that you just mentioned, since they're kind of like special events, they're not gonna all happen at a quarterly newsletter, like if we would need to make a change. And I think something like that needs to just be a standalone email
Email. Okay.
and that be that. Just kind of my thoughts on that one.
I
Okay.
think
Yeah.
a lot of
I
the
was
things you
gonna-
mentioned are just operational from the Park and Rec Department, and we can
Okay,
update
just-
them as we go.
Just wanted, so that's
Yep.
good. We're-
I was also gonna just say, make sure when you do your orientation, you mention that Bark Bites exists. So there'll be tips and highlights of, examples of like, hey, we let you know when the mowing cycle is, or,
I made
water
a-
hydration.
I made a plea to the people Thursday night, was that one? And I said, please, if you did not sign up for email, please do so. Go home and do so, because you're going to be missing important information. So I really pushed it this time. I also really pushed the app as well.
You could put something in Bark Bites reminding people to check their shots and keep them updated.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. People may be confused about the renewal of their membership. Because I think we've had some sort of rebate kind of things where if you were about to expire, but the park's been closed, it may have been extended. So maybe it would be helpful to teach people how to see what their renewal situation is. Which also goes into
Right.
keep the shots up to date.
Yeah, because I mean, while we try to do the courtesy notifications, it's really in orientation with everybody, it's their responsibility. And some
Right.
people change their email addresses, and then we don't know who they are.
So April.
Can you ask Stephanie to make sure you guys include something when you do the township? To say, hey, please look for, or if you're not signed up, because that township newsletter goes to everybody.
Mine's Stephanie. I'm sorry, I wasn't just
Could-
put a reminder of
Caitlin,
the
would you-
newsletter.
We're even on the website, just to let people know. Just something small.
What was that,
What-
Kathy? I didn't hear you.
Instead of a newsletter, could we put an article in the township newsletter?
I think you missed the boat for this one, but the next time, absolutely.
Caitlin?
Sure. Yeah, what would you like it to be about, renewing your membership?
I can check with Aaron tomorrow to see if he still has space.
I mean,
And just
so
about renewing your membership this year?
Mhm.
Okay.
ways to get information, renewing your membership, what the app is, maybe like 3 bullets, we're listening to your feedback from the survey, just,
Yeah, we
you
can't
know.
put the app address in the newsletter. That's the only thing.
Renewing
Say
membership.
something like, next time you're at the park, ask someone about the app.
Yep,
It's on the bulletin board, isn't it?
I think
Is-
it is.
I don't
It used to
remember.
be.
I think it is, but it's much easier if someone sends you the link.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's like a QR code in the bulletin board or something like, although that's easy to walk past in my experience.
Right.
Right, but I
And
think
it
it
all
may be
looks
some-
the same.
Maybe somebody wants to take on doing something with the bulletin board and keep that a little bit more interesting.
Okay,
You
hold
could
on.
jazz it
So-
up. Is it
Caitlin,
locked?
we're switching you from a quarterly to a township newsletter. And do you get the idea of what could go in that and like ASAP?
Sure,
Just-
I'll draft it and send it to y'all and you can just take a look and then hope if there's room this time, great. If not, next time around.
Okay, awesome. Okay. All right. Anything else on newsletter or Bark Bites? Okay, dog park survey. I asked you guys to kind of rate things or give your comments. And I'm gonna run through what things were and what questions I have for you as far as parking goes. We're gonna address parking in the Bark Bites, but one of the questions is, and I'll be honest, and Kristen, I don't know if you did this or not, I purposely did not park in a advisory board parking space. I parked and walked in because I wanted to go in anonymously. That was my first time in. I thought, so do you want to keep those spots?
Well, I would give them up since there's such a bone of contention.
That would be my recommendation.
Yeah.
I
would
feel
have-
strongly that they should stay.
Um,
I think it's the others, I'm looking now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 members. There's 3 board spaces. It's the one little benefit that's afforded a member for volunteering their time and service. And I think, part of the whole Bark Bites and whatnot was simply to let people know or understand. So I think if it's conveyed as to understanding why, then that may help eliminate the issues. The fact of the matter is, there is no road access to the park. It's a courtesy for people with disabilities and 3 board members at a time. Whether you take it out or not, people are still going to drive up there. And the issue is that they're driving up there, not.
That was the other thing. And Kristen, I believe you're the one who mentioned it last time, is why is there no parking up there? And I explained to people as best I could remember that bit of road that was there was made when we were building the dog park, that it was never built as a road. It was built to allow vehicles to get there and leave. And that is why there is no parking. But let's get back to, do we want to keep those? I'm bad about putting everybody on the spot. So if you,
I agree with Karen. I think people will park there regardless. There's only 3 spots for board members. Board members don't have to use it. I didn't use it in the beginning when my dog was a puppy and she had that energy to get out. And right now she's a little older. We spend like 20 minutes max. So like, I don't think there's, if people really want to park there, hey, they can volunteer their time on the board.
true. Kristen?
I actually did park there in this
Uh-huh.
spot because I wanted to see what the road was like and what it was all about. Personally, what I think the correct move would be is to not have board member spots, and in turn, to avoid people from parking there, is to just make them all handicap accessible only. instead of just not, because people, if there's no placard there, people will still park. So if you remove the board member one and, you know, people are just gonna drive up there and park, they're going to show more restraint, I would hope, if they were all handicap parking. So that would be my suggestion as to kind of avoid an open spot if we were to take them away from the board members. And then, you know, kind of answered like, okay, maybe there are more people that are handicapped, need handicap accessibility, and we're giving them to that cause instead of just taking parking away.
I like that too. I should say I also don't feel strongly about it. Like people shouldn't park there, but I don't really care if there are board member spots or not. So
Yeah, I never park there, so.
I don't think they're necessary particularly either to have those spots there. I never minded walking from the lot. When I went to my first orientation like 5 years ago, they talked about using that time walking from the lot to the park as a good time to let your dog kind of burn off some of the excitement of getting there. And I always thought, do board members' dogs have to burn that off too? So, I mean, and people park where there's not even spots, you know, they'll park on the other side. And there doesn't seem, I don't know what the consequences are for parking there. I've never seen anybody get ticketed or anything like that. Because I've seen people parking handicap.
They don't get ticketed, but they have had their key fobs turned off.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's probably not worth the aggravation.
Yeah.
To me, anyway.
And especially the ones that turn around on the athletic fields. So it's a very positive experience, but it's also not a lot to ask people, adults, to follow some
Sure.
simple rules. Walking is good for everybody. And if you, we always say we can't give permission to park at King Park. It is not in Doylestown Township. It is in fact a public park. It's not that far to walk. It's pretty close, actually.
No, it's not far.
My only question would be, is someone who's injured, you know, one of my first times at the park, there was a girl who had a new puppy and she had the wrong kind of leash and she had torn her ACL. So she was parked in the handicap, even though she didn't have the handicapped, and you could see she was limping, and she was just a runner dog. She was there for 15 minutes and she left. So there will always be those weird exceptions.
Yeah, we will never authorize a weird exception, because one weird exception turns into another weird exception. I wish I could say after all these years of watching it, I was probably one of the most positive people going into this, thinking if we do this all nice and neat, everybody will be good. And like, I don't know who it was said that I can guarantee if you're at the park, somebody's breaking a rule. They're all just common sense rules. They're all regular dog park rules, but they can always, you know, email us a doctor's note or anything that gives us viability. So if one person does it, somebody else is going to complain. So that's why we won't make an exception without something to go on, because it just opens a can of worms. But we're not on a hunt either. I had an incident the other day and saw four cars, one turned to come up barreling up the road, turn around on the athletic fields. So there are issues and concerns we have to address, but we're not trying to.
I hear you. That's something you just reminded me, Karen. When you do your bark bites, Kathy, when does the men's league start for lacrosse? So you can remind them about the people on the field. Karen, when is the men's lacrosse?
Well, lacrosse is playing right now, the CBAA lacrosse, and then the men's league will start end of June, beginning of July.
Yeah. So there's another one when you talk about going up and down there and
Athletic
safety.
field.
That's a good one.
Okay, I
There you go.
added it. Okay, all right, so folks, is it consensus of the board that we don't need our parking spots there, or is that, give me a nod on that, or do you all want to keep them?
I would remove the spots for the board members. That's my vote.
Same.
Hey, how many board members do we have here tonight?
You have a quorum?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
You have Kathy, Donna.
So does somebody want to make a motion?
Kathy, Donna, Caitlin, Kristen, David. Yes, you have a quorum.
And
And
it
Warren.
would be addressed and nobody wants to make a motion. We just
Oh,
want to do
Can I
consensus.
just ask one question? I don't have a feeling about one way. Is there a cost to doing anything differently, Karen? Do we have to pay for anything?
For what?
Or staffing to move signs or things like that? Because that I would want to know.
Oh, but they'll just pull them out when they do regular maintenance. So when they go up to empty the trash or whatever, they'll just pull the signs.
That would be my only question. If there's a cost affiliated, I would want to know that. That's my only thing. I don't really care.
What about Kristen's suggestion to turn the 3 board member spots into 3 handicap spots? Then you're not pulling out a post and leaving a hole. You're just.
Yeah, it's, most of the
Different
people
sizes.
in the handicap spots are not handicapped. A good portion of them are, but we can do that too. That's easy to do.
But, so that was my other question is do we have the right number of handicap spots?
Has
Yes.
anybody ever seen the handicap spots all filled? I haven't.
No.
No.
There's like,
If you watch,
there's
a lot of
six.
times, if you watch people when they come up, if they don't have the placard, they'll park
On the
No,
other side.
not in front of the signs. So they're, I guess they're violators with a conscience. But, it's, but I think the real issue is to deal with the problem.
Well, so we've all decided to take away the advisory board members' spots. Let's see, let's do that and then address it later if need be, as far as replacing those spots with more handicap. Does that make sense?
Yes,
We'll
Yeah.
just handle that internally. It'll get worked out.
Okay,
If Chris has the signs one day when they're just emptying trash, they can simply just mount signs on the posts and leave it at that.
okay. All right, David, do you have something?
nope.
Nope, okay. All right,
Did you need a
now,
motion? Did you
Yes.
need, are we going to?
all right, all right. We'll do.
I'll make a motion that we move the park members' spots.
Advisory
Second.
board. So say it again, David.
I make a motion that we move the 3 board member spots.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Can I second it? I never get to,
Absolutely.
sorry, Warren.
No
Okay, all
problem.
in favor?
All right,
Okay, anybody opposed? Okay. All right. All righty. Now, the next one was water. I checked with Chris. Water's going to be turned on. Hopefully in 2 weeks. It's all dependent on frost. Okay. The big pump. Do you all know what I'm talking about?
Mhm.
It is scheduled to be removed, or the plan is to remove it and then to put faucets on the water fountains. Adapt, if you look at least 2 of them, there's a place with a key that it can open and you can adapt and make faucets there, so that if we decide we want a pool, we can hook up a hose and still have a means to have water going through a hose. Does that, so that's,
Is that on a water fountain in the park?
yes.
Okay.
And I thought we had ordered them that way anyway, Karen. I wanted to go back and look at what we ordered because, and you have to, it's a key to enter it, but that's what
Right.
we talked about last week.
So how are they gonna fill up the pool if they need the key?
Well, it would remain open with the
Hose.
hose connected.
Okay.
Well,
They don't leave it on.
I guess if they leave it on once, then maybe it's turned off for a long time, but
Yeah.
but
The way the pool works, if I.
So,
give
let's
everybody-
let's move on to
Can I
light
just,
and
I'm
shade.
sorry, can I just stop a minute? Because I'm like the cost lady tonight. If there's water running, there's a cost, and I see Karen's face. Karen, what were you gonna say about that?
Oh, no, I'm fine with it. My only concern is historically the way, so the frost-free fountain that wasn't frost-free had a really long hose on it. So the way the pool works, yes, you can use a pool. Yes, you can fill it up and let the dog splash around. But when you leave, the pool is to be emptied and removed because the grass will die overnight, or now in this case, if the water's left on. So if it starts to be left on overnight or water was in it, we will pull the pool and it'll be done. So we're not trying to be mean again, but we do, our primary responsibility is to protect the park. So as long as good owners act responsibly, it's fine. And if they don't, then Chris will pull the pool.
So that's a good bark bite, what you're telling me.
It is a good bark bite. My only concern is that from the blue fountain, they've left water on before. I'm just concerned about flooding in the park. As long as they turn it off, we're in good shape.
Okay, light seating, shade. That was brought up, but again, if people stay with their dogs, do we need to address that? We know that lights aren't going to happen. Kristen, Nancy, whoever, I mean, we all know that there are plenty of benches out there, right? And the shade, there's actually shade available, people just don't use it. So is that an issue that you guys have an idea of? Does it need to be addressed, and if so, how?
Well, one comment I would make is that we're putting handicap parking up there. And then we're just saying, once they get into the park, they're gonna have to walk around.
The handicap parking is already there.
I know that
And-
we're not handicap parking there, and so we're encouraging people with handicaps to become members.
You have to
and
get
then saying
approved for that.
Yeah, well, you have to have a placard or a license plate to park
Oh,
there.
no, I'm not
and-
arguing with that.
Okay,
I'm not-
yeah.
That's it. It's-
So keep going, David.
But so we're encouraging people that have handicaps and have handicap parking permits to park there so they can walk into the park a short distance. And then saying that they can't sit and have to follow their dog around.
If you think about it, the benches are in the park primarily for those people that
Right.
cannot walk. They're really not there for the ambulatory.
Oh, I agree with you, but I'm just
So
saying
it's,
we need to make sure we don't catch the wrong group with the majority.
Good thought.
right.
What about our
Okay.
veterans? I'm sorry, I'm jumping. I like what you're thinking, David. It doesn't make sense. It's like we're saying two different things. What about veterans? Did we want to recognize veterans with those spots, the board spots? Do we want to do anything like that? Just a thought. You don't have to decide tonight, just a thought.
Okay, let's think on that one, because
Yeah.
I can just see that.
You can see,
Who's gonna-
I can
unfortunately,
see
verify
10 cars.
I
I don't
agree.
know,
Yeah,
Nancy.
who's gonna?
need to
unfortunately, because
think
it's
on
the
that
dog
one.
park, I can think of one group after another that's gonna have some reason why they should be.
Let's-
And nobody,
but-
I haven't
but so-
received any
And,
complaints.
and
Well,
if
yeah.
I could just add in real quick about the handicap, changing those over to handicap, the reason really for that, you're not going to bring in more people with disabilities because we have
No.
more spots. The main thing that I was looking for is a way for the board to kind of look good, right? Because we're giving up our spots to people that need it more. And then also that as a deterrent for people that can walk, not to park there. So
Right.
that's really the basis for that.
Right, you're
just to
filling the
kind of-
void.
Filling the void, just kind of circling back,
Oh,
for that.
I'm definitely not saying we get rid of the handicap spots. I think those are necessary. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, be careful when you talk about saying people must move around with their dogs or.
But
That's what
we
you
have
say in
to-
orientation, though.
David, that's been the rule since day one.
Yeah, that's a rule. If you can't,
That's
Yeah.
been the
You
rule since
can't-
day one. What we don't
Unfortunately-
want to do is remove benches for some reason and hinder the handicap. I understand that, and that's not,
That's primarily while they're there, but regardless of your circumstance, that's part of standard dog park rules.
Oh, I
People
agree.
will find ways to support each other and help each other in those situations. It's happened, there's many, many stories of helping hands at the dog park, specifically in these types of situations. So I think And these are,
Okay, so we want to address light, seating, or shade. Is that, it was mentioned in the survey, but is there any credence to that? Is there any, like, we know we're not going to put lights out because when it's dusk, it's time to go home. I mean, that's right.
Well, yeah, but maybe there's people that think that they should be able to, or that people would want to use the park at night and therefore lights are needed, but I think it's only reasonable to say, no, it closes at dusk, just like many other parks in the country,
right.
and we're
Well,
not putting in lights.
The
mean, it's
dog park
cool.
is, yeah, it's just
It's
an
the pool.
amenity.
So
It's an amenity in the park,
is
like the
there-
pavilion.
is there anything on that we need to address? The lights, the shade?
No, just ignore that one because it's addressed in orientation. It's addressed in all the signs saying all the parks close at dusk.
Okay.
I
So, oh,
It's
okay.
it's a tough time for working folks in the fall, but all the parks close at the same time.
right.
So get up early. Sorry. I mean, that came-
Retire.
but- all right. Community engagement. Hey, Kristen, did you hear anything from our rescue folks?
I didn't. I emailed the 3 different rescues, and maybe I'll do a follow-up email. I don't know how overwhelmed, I mean, just like us in this operation, these are all volunteers. And maybe it's something that's on their back burner. They're not thinking about meet and greets in person, but I did not hear back from any of them, and I emailed all 3. So if anyone has personal connections, we emailed Almost Home, Wags, and Tiny Miracles. So if anyone
Well-
has any personal connections that they want to have conversations with, we can do that too.
I haven't seen a meet and greet since COVID.
I'm with you on that
Right.
one. So that's why I think it's on the
I think-
back burner.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
think that may change when the COVID restrictions lift, if they do. So,
Well, and we were hoping to kind of give them the idea at the beginning, but so I have, as far as community, so we're not closing that. We're still going to pursue that, but it's just not going to happen as soon as we think. What about, and we kind of talked about this, I think, what if we held a meeting at the dog park? What do you think?
One of our board meetings?
One of our board meetings, if we put it in a bark bite and said, this day you can meet your board members if you have a question, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just throwing it out there, folks.
I just have visions of becoming Leslie Knope in Parks and Rec and just people coming and complaining.
That's my job.
What's the objective of this, Kathy? Like, what's your objective? To meet you, to?
So that people would see that, like physically see their board members and to have an opportunity to either make a comment, ask a question, that we're not just this email thing that, or, that we're real people.
I mean, you have that opportunity with Fido Float, and you have that opportunity orientation. I'm a little like Kristen. I don't want a lot of complaints.
Well, and
I'm wrong.
that might be all that we get. You're right.
Right.
So you all think no, and I'm fine with that.
I think no.
No.
yeah, I think no.
Okay. All right. Okay. Anything else on community engagement? Can you think you want to stick with the rescue groups for now? It's fine. Give me a nod. If yeah. Okay. All right. The 5th one was toys and structures. This is where add the pool. And when I went, there are a ton of toys out there. Karen, who provides the toys?
If every now and again, we can get some donated from different Pet Supplies Plus or Pet Value, it's now out of business, or people have brought toys to donate to the park. We tell you in orientation that if you bring a toy to the park, it belongs to the park. The danger is in bringing your own toy.
But so where
Um,
did they, there were a ton. Kristen, did you see all the?
People are starting to bring them.
Okay,
But again, it's kind of an interesting, I found it a very interesting comment on the survey.
Oh.
Because you can bring them, you can donate them. But it's not something we would probably go out and buy because it only takes one dog eating the wrong toy or, it's a liability thing, really. But they
all right,
do.
so we're gonna mark through toys. Now, and this is the structures.
Well,
Would we-
before we leave the.
I
before we
think they
leave the
meant like
toys,
an
the big-
agility, like an A-frame agility type structure more
Right.
than balls.
Absolutely. What, David?
Before we leave the toys, they get destroyed every time the lawns get mowed.
Right. It's because people don't pick them up.
Right, exactly.
Right.
They're told, we've got that chewed up tennis ball. We're told if you, just like you teach your children, if you play with toys, you put them away.
I
And the
think-
boxes are out there.
I think what happens is after a period of time, you let go of or disregard or move on from orientation once you're, some people are still living it and doing a great job, and others just are not. And that's not unusual with dog parks. It does happen. Now we're trying positive approaches to get people. It's always going to be the few. It's not the majority, but it is certainly some out there that are just disregarding it. And there's no way around it. There's no other way to say that.
So, and yes, we can look at the people who are doing the right things. We can look at the people who are doing the wrong things. We hope more people do the right things than the wrong things. Play structures, Caitlin, like you said, A-frames. There's a huge rock that I got the township guys to, when they were building the soccer fields. I don't know if you remember this, Karen. It's a
Mhm.
massive rock. It's right near the Sensory Trail at Central Park.
Yep. Yep.
I said, guys, you got to save that rock for the dog park. And that's all it is a rock. But little dogs could jump on it, big dogs could jump on it. Every dog would pee on it. But
Great.
but it would be something for the dogs to play on. I mean, or do we want to, in one of the bark bites, say, hey, it was mentioned structures, does anybody want to donate, or does anybody want, I know a couple people who are looking to donate. Do we want an A-frame? Do we want to mess with that? Do we want those types, just the big boxes or the big wooden spindle things that they put the carpet on top, the dogs can jump on and jump off? Do we want to pursue, looking at costs and prices for that? Or do we want to just stick with what we have?
What are the liability issues with offering a structure? I wonder
I
what
have-
Cameron thinks about that.
There are some pieces of equipment. I've done a good amount of research on some of this. There's some that I can absolutely recommend, but when you go back to this thing, excuse me for a minute. When you do this, you're also impeding on the run space, and then so just food for thought before we go down this road. Which section are they in? Are they in all sections? People are gonna cross over and disregard the spaces. But there are some sections, some I can recommend, but as agility equipment as a whole, I cannot recommend it at any level. If you don't know how to use it, you're potentially putting your dog or another dog or a person at risk. I cannot, in good conscience,
So
recommend.
Karen, what do you mean by agility equipment?
The weave poles, the A-frames, the jump through hope. There's a few climb and play things that I can recommend, but in terms of typical agility equipment, that's something people learn how to use and learn how to do it.
But no one mentioned agility equipment. They mentioned play structures, right? So
So So here's the thought, if we were going to have a play structure, we'd have to have it in each of the 3 sections, and it would have to be suitable for big dogs and little dogs because we
Right.
rotate.
Mhm.
Unless we
Correct.
ask the guys to move the play structures.
Yep. No,
They won't do that.
Right,
So they were also potentially increasing the work in there in terms of maintenance.
they'd have to string trim around it,
Yeah,
can't mow up to it.
I mean, there's a lot for the dogs to do over there with the toys and run around playing with the other dogs. I mean, it'd be nice if you could have like a designated area for those types of activities, but I don't know that it's necessary. It's going to create a lot of work and liability and those types of things.
Karen?
Yeah.
I have two questions.
Yep.
One is, I didn't experience it, but probably because of COVID. I had heard there was something they would have like the rope and the dogs could chase it or something they would do.
it is called it's going to go right out of
Lure
my head.
coursing.
It's lure coursing. Yes, it's from lure. It has a name.
Lure coursing.
It's what you use to help train a dog for lure coursing. They're basically chasing the bunny. I had made some and put them over there for a while. Nobody really used them, but I will look up the name again. It's going right out of my head. One thing that might be a possibility once we get out of COVID is to reach out to some of the places that do agility, like K9 Gym used to come over and do demonstrations, and let them come and bring their equipment and do demo opportunities. But there are a few pieces of equipment that are very, very appropriate, and I can certainly recommend. I can find the pictures of them and send them out to people.
And one other
But
question.
do you guys want to look into that? Or, I mean, these are what was mentioned, the things that were mentioned in the survey. And one of them was play structures. And like Caitlin suggested that like structures, not agility training, but structures. But do we want
Well-
to look in, do we want Karen to look into that? Or are we happy with what we have?
I think I would have to say it has to be dog intended equipment. So I know some places and daycare centers have, their play school, kids, little houses and whatnot. But I think.
Karen, you mentioned you already know some things that would be good. Is that
Couple
something that
things.
you could put together quickly in like a few links? And we can look at it and see if it's
Yep.
cost prohibitive or,
I
okay.
was gonna say.
They're not that
the cost,
much,
too.
but they'd have to be anchored, I think, or some way to figure out how to.
Maybe we can look at the cost and the imprint on the park in terms of space. I don't think we have to give up on it yet or say yes yet.
Right. So
Yeah,
it's,
that's
I
good.
don't want to see the dogs limited in their ability to run. That's the.
Okay. All right, so Karen, you'll send out a couple things that you recognize are appropriate structure.
Yeah, I think they'd be appropriate, safe.
Okay,
Yeah, be careful. Is anything that they have to burrow in or go under? We want to remember the dog behavior. So if somebody's shy or tentative and they want to go and they go with somewhere to hide, if somebody chasing them can get them, we've just created a problem. There's a lot of things to think about. It can be great and it can be risky. It just has to be really well thought out.
the other structure, and this is, again, when I was going through this, the pool itself. Could we, and this is, and again, this is an idea, is make a spot in each area and make it with gravel so that we're not killing the grass. We're not making a mud spot, and make that spot a pool spot. And each area would have a spot that a pool would go in the summertime. And again, it would have to be emptied, etc. But if we set it, spent the money on the stone and all of that, and made it a permanent spot, and then in the wintertime, it's just stone like the rest of the areas, would that work?
I think it's a neat idea.
You basically have it at the front of every part, the front center of every section has the stone.
Yeah, but that's not appropriate for a pool location. then we would
Yeah.
encourage people to move away from the gate. It would have to be its own spot somewhere.
I'd put it in the far corner. I wouldn't put it in the middle anywhere.
Yeah, because it has to be someplace where you can drain the water to, and then people aren't going to get, their feet all wet in it.
Do you, I mean, good idea, bad idea, what?
Good idea.
I
Good
like
idea.
the idea of having a pool
Yeah.
Yeah, I
in the
like it.
parks. I do. I don't like the
Yeah.
idea of it having to be moved all the time for mowing or moved all the time.
Right.
So if we, and so, I will look into the cost of that to see if that's feasible. Karen, you think about it. I don't, and this is,
Well, I'm gonna ask Chris what he thinks, because he's the one that has to maintain it.
Right, because then realize that you can't put the stoned area too far in or away, because you've got to be able to run a hose to it.
well, so it could be close to the water fountain.
Right. Gotta get picked
So-
where it'll be.
So I guess, so what we've
End up with a
thought of
mud pit.
throughout here is why we couldn't do this. But could we do this? The same with the structures. Is it possible, or is it, do we want to look into it or not? That's my point.
I would say yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and we can work with Chris on it because they could build a French drain. We can make it larger than the structure itself. So when you're emptying, it goes in through the rocks and kind of down. And I know there's a drainage issue and all that kind of stuff, but that's kind of what I was thinking too, is like building a dedicated spot for
Spot.
it. Yeah.
I will work on that one. I just think it's time to, these are things that our members mentioned,
Right.
and we asked for their input, but yet we're, I don't know, kind of being restrictive on our thinking, I guess, sort of. All right. Kristen, you brought up a good thing, medium dog area as opposed to large and small.
Yeah, that came out as a result of the survey. If, we would consider a medium dog, area, because you have a 30-pound medium dog or large dog, and then you have the 105-pound, dog, where people were kind of, sorry, my dog's gonna go crazy, the cat's there. But yeah, just a thought. I'm not really sure what people's, sorry, like I said, it's crazy.
There's a dog at the dog park meeting.
And a cat. It's gonna get crazy.
Just a minute, little one. So mine's getting anxious too. So do we want to, now the financial side of adding a third would is I don't want to say crazy, but let's hold that one, and you all think about it and think how we could deal with what would you say, the 35 to 45 pound dogs?
I think 30 to 45, and just from like 2 experiences with Mickey, she's 38 pounds. When we were at the dog park, we came into a very similar breed, size. They ran and played, and they were fabulous. This weekend, we had 2 dogs over, friends of ours who are, I would say 75 pounds, and she was a whole different dog with them. Like, she would try to play, and then all of a sudden that whole roll over and play dead thing was happening. Like, she just was super submissive, and she wanted to play with them, but then they would interact, and she was, I don't know, she just was apprehensive. So it was interesting to see her with different sized dogs. And I didn't know if, that could just be her and everybody else is fine. But it was a comment on the survey that I thought, maybe we could talk about it.
And I think that's what should be our homework till next meeting is how we could address that. And I don't know. Do we expand small dog to larger? Do we, I can tell you that the cost of adding another, and Karen, you know, that just the cost of adding another area and the maintenance and all of that, there's a lot of thinking that has to be done there, but
Yep.
put your thinking caps on and let's.
Yeah, you can't go any bigger in small dogs because there's a lot of small dogs.
Oh,
What's our breakout, Karen? Do you know
Up to,
how many?
up to 29.
I'm
You mean
sorry,
how
what is-
many small dogs?
How many small, how many large? Out of curiosity.
There's a lot of both. They come at different times. They come in different fashions. When you have a busy small dog day, you could have 30 or 40 dogs in there.
I just
Been
meant
there.
membership. I'm sorry, let me clarify. Membership.
Oh, I don't
wise.
know.
Is
I
it
don't
like
know. It's
more?
pretty, it's a mix. It's not close
mean,
enough.
I
Fairly
think-
even.
I think that
you
would be
probably-
smart.
I'm sorry, Nancy, you probably have the most mediums.
Well, I was gonna say, it'd be
Hopefully.
smart to probably figure that out, and then maybe we push for a membership drive, so we have more people coming. Because one of the things people talk about is they go and there aren't other dogs to socialize, and then it might justify that other area. You know, we didn't talk about a membership drive, because I don't know where our numbers were, but I think they had dropped off a little bit.
Well,
You know, I
and Nancy, you're right, they had, but I think there we need to give COVID a chance to, to bounce back.
Also, the season during which we collected survey responses, there are definitely going to be less people. It's been cold, the park's been closed. Like, I think we should put on our calendar, once we address some of the things that came up in the survey, repeating the survey and seeing if anything changes in terms of responses.
Good point. Good point. Yeah, it was November when we, so I'll put that down. So repeat maybe in August?
Maybe
Well,
after
there's
we
no
do some good
reason-
stuff.
Is there any reason why the survey can't be an annual affair anyway?
I guess it could. I don't. I was.
And I
thrilled
think it
that we
could be,
got
but also
out and
if
got
you
it
do it
out,
at a,
you know?
if you do it at a different time of the year, your answers might be different. So.
True. Okay, good point.
Yeah, do it in November, the one wind shades and a heater.
Well, all right. But I thought it
It's
was.
cold out there. It's cold out.
So think about the medium dog area and how we could address that. And then the other thing that came out of the board member responses was post maintenance. So really keeping the bulletin board up to date is something, and Karen, you mentioned that. I've been the one not doing that, I guess. I mean, I've been the one doing it, but I guess not on a consistent. Do you think people read the bulletin board?
I think that they might read it if they see different things on there.
Could you
I
put the
know
dog
what-
bites up? The dog bark bites up?
That's a good idea.
So then we have to take things down. That's the thing or does anybody want to take on? You know what, we'll talk about that next meeting too. Let's do that. We'll talk about that next meeting too, on how to get the printed information available to people at the dog park bulletin board. Okay. We have, and I know we've gone late and I apologize, we have May 6th orientation, June 10th orientation. Can anybody help? You know what? Really, it's setting up that helps one person. Well, that would be me. Help is, help. Having one other person is helpful.
Sure. And as I mentioned to you in an email, Kathy, my husband and I are leaving, and our dog are leaving on May 1st for our trip out to Portland, Oregon. And it's an open-ended trip. We're going to be gone 2-3 months.
I think that's wonderful, Donna.
Thank you. I just can't wait to get my hands on that grandson.
Baby, I know. Can anybody help with the May 6th at 6:40, at 5:40, no, at 6:15?
Is that when the meeting starts or is that when you need setup?
That's when needs setup.
I can help.
Yeah,
I
I can
can
help.
help.
That's when it starts.
Oh,
Oh, it has 6:45 here.
Yeah, that's start.
6:15 is
Oh,
setup.
okay, set up, yeah.
Kristen, can you help May 6th?
sure.
Did you say? Can
Yeah.
anybody help June 10th?
I should be able to help June 10th. What day is June 10th?
I don't know.
We'll play in a second. It's Thursday.
I can help on June 10th.
Okay, all right, we'll get
So what
that.
time, want us there at 6:45?
6:15,
Team.
Okay,
6:15, okay? And then we will address July and August at the next meeting, okay? Anything else?
If anybody has your computers open, I just sent some equipment.
Oh, cool. I heard it come in.
Anybody else, anything else? We're 20 minutes over, folks. So Caitlin, you're gonna get an article together for the newsletter.
Yes.
Kristen, you and I are gonna work on, and you, bless your heart, you got roped into this because well, anyway. So we'll work on a Bark Bites. We've got May 6th covered. I'm gonna talk to Chris about the pool thing. And we're good to go. Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay, are we gonna adjourn this meeting?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I can second.
Okay. All right, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
See everybody.
Thank you.
6:21. You all, thank you. Sorry we went over, but that, I thought, good conversation.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there was a lot to discuss. I think we got a lot through. It was pretty good.
Good. All right.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
folks.
Have a good one.
All righty, bye.
Bye-bye.